But there are schools that have way more resources than others. And part of that is that a school's budget is tied to local taxes. So if you live in a rich neighborhood, your school's going to have a lot more money.
Yeah.
And if you live in a poor neighborhood, it's going to have a lot less money.
But you can move.
And so, yeah, you can move
into the rich neighborhood.
Yeah, but if you have money, you should move to the rich neighborhood. It's going to be the nicer the neighborhood, the more expensive it is, right? So if you can only afford a cheap apartment, the likelihood that you're going to be in a poor school district is pretty high, right? So if you're like in the middle class and like maybe you can really sacrifice to move into that nicer area so that you can send your kids to the nicer school, there is that possibility. But that is kind of the reality of the way things are in the U.S. And it's partially because the school systems were started out as local institutions of local families banding together and saying like, hey, let's pool our money and we'll hire one school teacher for a little one room schoolhouse, and we'll send all of our kids to this one room schoolhouse that teaches like first grade through high school, and you have one teacher for all of those students. And so it's like pooled resources from local communities, and so that kind of grew into what we have today. And then we also have the public versus the private schools. Sometimes the public schools are more well researched than the private schools, and sometimes the really nice private schools are definitely more resourced. I can think of a school called Exeter. I think Exeter Academy. It's in New Hampshire, and they probably have a lot of PhDs on their staff there. But that place is as expensive as going to college. So, yeah, I would say it's pretty. We have disparities for sure here too in terms of those things.